Welcome, everyone, to the Business Spotlight Series. I am Sean Schoenmakers, the owner of ActionCOACH Dallas, where we are helping business owners build and grow their businesses to ultimately improve their lives. And so today we've got a special guest, Steven Dietz. He is the owner of Southwest Recovery Services, and he is going to tell us some of the trials and tribulations, all the goodness, all the badness, whatever he's interested in telling us about his company and his journey. And so, Steven, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Sean, and I really appreciate the opportunity to share my story and my company's growth and challenges and how we've been able to overcome them for the last 30 years. So thank you very much for
Nice.
having me. I appreciate the opportunity to share my story.
Yes, sir. We appreciate you coming on and sharing some of the insights. So, if this is your first time in the audience watching any of these channels or videos, make sure you like, subscribe, do all that stuff so you can get the notifications as we drop more of these valuable conversations into the channel. And so, without further ado, Stephen, would you mind introducing us to your company and telling us what are the problems that you guys solve?
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm the founder and owner of Southwest Recovery Services. We're a national brand that services companies on a nationwide basis. We have offices in, I believe, 6 states now, about to open up in another seventh one in Colorado. The problems that we solve are the day-to-day headaches that your clients may have when dealing with customers who are giving them the runaround, or they're slow paying, or have just set up the ball on the tee to bunt a dribble right out in front of the catcher's plate, or the home plate, with no catcher to throw the person out at first base. Some people do it intentionally. Some people are just having cash flow issues themselves. But any business owner that I've ever talked to about our services, they're needed, they're much appreciated, and it is something that we take very seriously here at this company. I founded the company with the principle to set out to be different than the industry norm, or the industry has a bad reputation for, those big bad bill collectors. Well, that's not the approach that I wanted to take. I work very diligently and train and listen and coach on phone calls even today, because I want to make sure that the legacy that I leave behind is one of change. Change agent. We don't treat people with disrespect. We don't yell and scream on the phone. All the stereotypes that you might have in your head about a bill collector, I started the company to break those. I don't think it is necessary to treat people in such a manner that they become defensive. In fact, that's the very opposite of what you want to do when you're trying to get somebody to give you money, or to pay something that they owe to another company that heretofore they were resistant in paying. And so I'm here every day. Take pride in the day-to-day operations of the business. I'm very hands-on, and I have been since day one. If something needs to be done, I roll up my sleeves and we get to work. So we have had a lot of success over the 30 years that I've run the business, and we're solving problems that customers might have, or your listeners might have, with regards to overdue AR. There's a saying in the business industry: cash flow is king, and we're the king of we're the king of the cash flow recovery companies.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, that saying, right? We actually a lot of times will chat with clients and we make sure that our saying we use is revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash
Yes.
is king. So,
Yeah.
your revenue cool, really being really big, that could be good, but if you're not making a lot of profit, maybe it's not that great. And then even if you are making a lot of profit on the P&L, you may not have that cash in the bank. And so this is what you're talking about is, hey, look, let's make sure if you're going to make money, you get that cash in the bank, right? So, yeah, big need for a lot of companies, and and I like too how you basically are saying, hey, we don't need to be mean, right? A lot of times you said some people do it on purpose, but I mean, and you probably have seen the same thing. Most times it's like there was a question on a bill, or they missed the bill, or they just didn't see it, or just maybe they're not that organized. And so I'm not saying that you shouldn't stick to your responsibilities or take care of your responsibilities, but some people aren't always on top of it. So having someone like you or your team that can send a reminder, give them a phone call, and just let them know, many times that solves the problem, right? So,
Well, in doing this as long as I have, this is the one thing I've learned. There are many reasons why somebody is unable to pay a bill. It could be an oversight. It could be a family medical emergency. It could be stress in the family for unforeseen, health issues. It could be
yeah.
people that are ill and in the hospital. And those types of things take priority over making sure that a bill to your dentist is paid on time. The first step is listening. If you take time to listen to what the person is going through and the reason why that they haven't paid the bill, you will have a direct and clear roadmap on how to work through the problem, as opposed to assuming off the jump that this person is a deadbeat and they're not paying and we're going to treat it. That's how the industry has gotten the bad name and the bad reputation that it has. And I just don't do it that way. I never have, I never will, and I won't stand for it with the people that work for me. You need to listen. They will tell you, they will give you a roadmap forward to helping them solve the problem. And if you listen and you find some common ground, you find some commonality, whether it be the sports, weather, a geographical area, people, are in Ohio, and you talk to them about the Buckeyes, they've got to be a Buckeyes fan. It breaks the ice. It creates it makes you human, not a robot or a bill collector. And you get more out of somebody when you take that approach, as opposed to off the bat, Mr. Smith, I'm calling today because you owe my client money. Okay, well, that's a misnomer. They do owe the money, but you need to find out why, and then suggest a solution to the problem that fits inside of the box or the painting that they painted for you, because you took the time to listen to what the problem is, not trying to solve it before you've listened to why there was a problem in the first place. That's the key to it.
The listening, I think you just described what's needed to solve all problems in life. But I tell you, it's amazing how you can hear something, but you just may not listen to what was being said.
Yeah.
So, and there's all kinds of reasons, but yeah, it's so important, and I think that's genius. It's simple but genius. So,
I never considered myself to be a genius. I just have a way of getting on the same level as the person that I'm communicating with, and I have found over the years that has been a very successful tool in my toolbox. Is just listen to what somebody has to say before you start interjecting and trying to solve a solution that you don't know what the problem was in the first place. And it works. When I was a younger person working for the furniture store, that was the approach I took, and it didn't take long for me to be the top person in the company and get promoted through the ranks. So it worked then. It worked when I started my company, and I've instilled that into the staff that get on the phones and make the calls on a daily basis.
Yeah, if you've read any number of influence books, common ground is one of those influence factors. So yes, that's a good thing for a lot of reasons. It could also it's fun. It's interesting to hear when someone has similar perspectives or areas in their life. So so obviously you mentioned an interest in changing the view of the industry, or maybe the type of company that you would operate. How and why, why did you start the company? How and why did you end up starting this business?
Well, that's a long story. As I mentioned a moment ago, I was working for a furniture company, and I was being groomed to be the corporate credit manager. I'd risen through the ranks of the local store and had been promoted and moved my wife to Arlington, Texas, and was being groomed by the corporate credit manager to take over his role because he was aging and going to retire. Unbeknownst to me, they were in the process of selling the company, and it sold very shortly after I relocated to a company called Aaron Rents. You might have heard of them. They're a big national chain headquartered out of Atlanta. The Loudermilks own that company, and they thrive. They do very well. When that happened, there was no longer a need for a corporate credit manager, because Aaron's has a philosophy. If you can fog a mirror, you can rent from Aaron Rents. So, my role was kind of not there anymore. It was more a job at that point. I had a wife that was in college. We were expecting a child. It's what they call suck it up, buttercup. You need to work. And so I was bored. I've always been able to collect money and collect lots of it because of the approach I took. I cracked open a file that I wasn't supposed to get into one day because I was bored and I had nothing else to do. And I saw millions of dollars that the store itself, which was located right across the street from the Galleria here on Alpha and the tollway. And I said, you know what? I approached the store manager. I said, Scott, I said, do you have any objections to me calling these folks and seeing what I could do to start getting some money? The money started coming in so fast that the people in Atlanta, primarily Robin Loudermilk, came out to see what Scott was doing because he figured he had to be cooking the books. Most store managers get paid on a P&L and they have a bonus. And so Charlie Loudermilk sent his son out, Robin, and lo and behold, they weren't cooking the books. They had a secret weapon. They had a samurai in the back with a sharp sword that was slicing through the bad debt and collecting a lot of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Robin approached me and said, can you do this at our other stores? We never took the approach of, this was just bad debt, and we wrote it off. At 19 years old, that sounded amazing. I get a corporate expense account. I get to get on airplanes and travel. It was exciting. It was the allure of something different. Mr. Big Shot had made it, and of course I can do that. So I started traveling from store to store, and I'd spend a week there, sometimes 2 weeks if it was necessary, training and teaching the store personnel on what I was doing and how to do it. Well, this went on for a good year and a half, maybe even 2 years. I came home from one of those trips, and I was just devastated by the reality if I wasn't there for my family. My daughter had taken her first steps, get choked up, and I wasn't there. And I took that to heart, and I told my wife, I said, I'm going to resign. This isn't worth it, and I want to be there for my family, and I want to be there for my children. And I approached my regional manager, Ed Quinones, and I said, Ed, I'm sorry, but I can't do this anymore. And he went to the Loudermilks, and they came back and said, hey, what would you consider starting up your own company? We'll back you, and we'll give you the bad debts to collect. I said, well, I don't think that's a bad idea. My business, one of the salespeople that worked in the store kind of knew me and knew of my situation. He had just rented all the furniture for the World Cup when it came to Dallas back in the early 90s. His commission check was several $100,000. So he could afford to leave his job. He was the salesman. I was the bill collector. And, I remember partnering with Don and starting the company. And the first night that we went out to celebrate, we had this fancy dinner. Fancy dinner back then was, $150. But we had a nice meal, broke bread, and I got in my truck the next morning and I drove to Oklahoma City and picked up their files and brought them back. And we copied and scanned them, and then I took them back. And we couldn't even afford the FedEx back in those days. But that's how we got started, and I had files and files and files stacked up that high because there was not digital things back then. Don would sit in his office and he had the yellow pages, and he'd do this. What do you think about this? Oh, I can collect that, Don. He'd call him, ding, 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 and he'd sign him up. So that's how we got started. It's a very unique story for sure.
That is interesting. It's awful nice if someone offers to help you start your first business. So that's cool. So it's obviously been a long time since then. Who primarily do you guys serve? Like if I'm in the audience, how do I know if I'm a good fit for your service?
Well, I always tell people this. I get a phone call from somebody and they say, "Is this debt too small?" I won't beat around the bush. We make our money on volume of accounts. But I'm more interested in making a personal business relationship with somebody than I am, telling them no that their account's too small or they don't have enough for us to collect. Because I can't tell you how many times I've established that business relationship with somebody that wasn't my ideal customer, but knew somebody that was. And because I was willing to, take a little bit less on this opportunity, I was able to parlay that into a larger opportunity. with somebody else that they knew. I got a phone call today from Beatty Family Dental out of Iowa. And Tracy Thompson has been a client of mine for years and years and years. Well, they opened up a sister location. Who did they call to do their collections? Steve Dietz, because that one dentist practice in Davenport, Iowa was not too little for me to take on. Now, the company's grown since then, and we try to shy away from that type of stuff. We need practices. We need groups. We don't need practices. But needless to say, I still have the mindset that everyone that calls me is important. I want to talk to them. I want to maybe give them some advice, maybe give them some direction. If they're not a fit for us, they're not a fit. But I don't look at the size of a company or their ability to provide the type of forward flow in accounts each month as a determining factor. I try to build a business relationship with somebody first, because you never know who they know. You never know who their influential network is, and who they may know, or who they may come into contact with in the future through their networking. Business is all about who you know, not what you know. So it has a lot to do with people's outreach, and I try to keep that mindset, even though the company is growing. My COO wants me to move away from that, and I just can't, because it's at the fundamental at the core of the principles that I started the business with. And even though the company's gotten much bigger, I'm still that same guy that missed his first footsteps and wanted to do something different when I started the company.
Yeah. Awesome. So why do your customers choose you? What makes you guys different from your competition?
It's not rocket science. I tell people that all the time. I don't have the magic beam that's going to take Jack to the top of the clouds and rescue the princess. We do things differently, and I believe that the tenured staff that I've trained makes a difference, but it's still the same process. One company might do it a little different than the other, but it's not rocket science. I will say this. When you look around at the collection agencies, especially in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, look at how many of them have been around for 20 plus years. I bet you don't find too many. And what that means is that this company was founded with a principle to change the way the industry as a whole is looked at. Now, I can't say that I've been successful in that, but I've made an impact in the relationships that I've built. We pay our clients, and that is a lot of the bad reputation that collection agencies have, is that they keep the money. I mean, it's we have millions and millions and millions of dollars that flow through here every single month, and we have millions and millions more that flow out. So there's a temptation there to not do the right thing. So I think that when you look at what makes my company a little different, it's the approach that we take, it's the training that the staff has, and it's the longevity, because we've been here, we'll be there, and that says a lot, because there's a lot of companies that don't do things right and they're not around anymore.
Mm-hmm. Well, trust is one of the biggest factors in longevity and client relationships, and of course repeat business, all that stuff. So it sounds like you guys are making sure you're trustworthy, which is I'm sure goes a long way. From a marketing perspective, you mentioned that you had someone call you because they opened up another office, and so obviously that's great. That leads to more business for you guys. What has been the number one marketing strategy for you guys? What's brought in the most business from a marketing perspective?
My COO worked for a much bigger company when he came to work for me, and they had a room full of salesmen that got on the phone. I've been fortunate that I have developed relationships with a web marketing company that put us in a position where we could open up the branch offices. Nothing says a trust like a local a footprint in an area that somebody's looking for. We in 2001, 2002, and 2003 were growing at 180% year over year because of that marketing company. We have since changed because we outgrew them, but we still work with a national brand out of New York called WebFX, and I don't have enough good words to say about that company. We routinely look at the visitor tracking history I've got 10 billion, 20 billion, $30 billion a year companies that are looking for my services because of the work that they've done in the SEO outreach. And so we don't have a salesperson. Well, we do. We have one. You're looking at it. I want to make sure that things are done right, that we under promise and over deliver. And it consumes me. It takes up a lot of my time where I could be doing other things, but I want it done right. I want the company to be represented in such a way that if something is said, something gets done. And I tell people all the time on the phone, the buck stops here. It just does. You're not going to be dealing with somebody else. I'm not an absentee owner. I don't have a home in Florida. I don't have a boat at the coast. I'm in the office every day, and I make sure that things are running smoothly. And I enjoy it. I'd be lying if I said I don't, because every day in this industry, every day in this business is different. There's no 2 days are alike. And some days have more problems than others. Some days have more rewards than others. It's just the luck of the draw which one of those days you're going to get.
All right. Yeah. Again, it sounds like you're very interested in making sure that you're, like you said, you do what basically is being said, which creates a lot of trust. People probably feel like they can count on you guys, which again, I'm sure has served you well over the years. So
yeah, I've got some of the same clients for all 30 years that I've been open. I mean, Carolyn Matthews, Classic Property. I have several. I've made relationships with him over the years. We talk on the phone. We go to dinner sometimes. I was at her grandson's high school graduation. I mean, it's about building those relationships. It does more than build trust. It builds reliability, and in that you can trust, and that you can refer, and that you can you can build a foundation that you can grow a business.
Yeah. So to look back on your journey, lots of things have happened, I'm sure, over 30 years. What's been the most memorable or maybe the hardest challenge that you've had? How did you overcome it, sir?
The most memorable, I guess, would be my partner Don sold a big tanning salon and fitness outfit in Fort Worth in Arlington. And I don't know how many of your viewers are old enough to remember, but they didn't have a long distance or a call from Dallas to Fort Worth or Dallas to Arlington. They didn't have metro lines. It was long distance. And so we couldn't afford the long distance. So my wife was going to school to be a nurse at Baylor. I would get up in the morning at 4 o'clock. I would put my 2 kids in my red pickup truck, and I would drive over to Arlington. We found a home daycare over there that would watch the 2 kids. I would get them there in the daycare at 6 o'clock. I would go over to a friend of hers' house in Arlington. I would lay down on the couch for an hour, get a little bit of shut-eye. And then at 8 o'clock, when I could start dialing, I was at their kitchen table with my piles of paper, making those phone calls into those accounts in Arlington. I think I will never forget that, just because, it was a challenge, but, it was in the beginning days of the company. And I'll never forget sitting at that little dining room table. Hell, the phone was still on the wall with a cord, right? It had the touch dial, but I had to reach up from the chair and dial the number. And I sat there and I dialed for dollars, and we kept that account and made some money off of it. I will, with undoubted certainty, tell you that the biggest challenge I've had is dealing with the cybersecurity threats that are facing businesses today. We had an episode with ransomware in 2020, and it was a 7-figure problem. And people, I don't think, really realize how vulnerable they are to these types of attacks if they're sitting on large volumes of data. We've since changed the approach that we take to our networking capabilities, and have partnered with a cybersecurity company that has 24/7 monitoring. But it was a challenge. We were migrating from our first collection software. Don and I started. We were using Microsoft Workbooks. I don't know how many people in the audience will remember Microsoft Workbooks, but this was before Microsoft came out with its first suite of software applications. That was what Microsoft grew into today. It was Access, it was Excel, it was Word, but Microsoft, or the Workbooks, was before that. And my brother and I were sitting around trying to discuss how, which one of these things was going to be the next step in the company's evolution. And Microsoft Access had some templates in there. And one of the templates was donations. It was for like a nonprofit company that would seek donations. And I looked at him and I said, that'd be perfect, Brian, because that's exactly what we're doing. We're seeking donations. Pardon me. We worked for many, many years on that, built a SQL backend into it. When this ransomware happened, we were in the middle of a migration from that software that I had built and used for 25 years into a new platform. And we lost data. It was a nightmare. By far, that was the biggest challenge that I've ever had to face.
I tell you, they're getting really good at those freaking phishing, and yeah, it can be very difficult to tell sometimes what's.
We have our CIO here routinely sends out phishing stuff to see who clicks on it, and then we take them into the conference room and have a conversation with them, and they go through additional training, and you're only as good as your weakest link. And so you have to stay in front of this, because this AI is going to be such a challenge. I don't think people are prepared for the cyber risks that are coming into play for the business community in the next probably 2 to 5 years. We might have 10, but once this gets up and starts learning and building upon itself, it's going to be so much easier for these cyber thieves to hold companies ransom and hold them hostage to their data.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll increasingly get good at it, so we got to increasingly increase our skills and training on that stuff. So, what about as an employer? Obviously, it takes some team to get into 6 and 7 locations, or however many you guys are at this point. So, or 7 states, 6 states. So, what's been your biggest learning as an employer since you began in business?
To partner with a good PEO.
All right.
Yeah, we use Insperity, and they are a trusted partner. I really was able to break out and start growing when I didn't have to handle the payroll. I didn't have to handle the HR. I didn't have to handle the benefits. When we were able to start offering a really good benefits package to the employees, they became more dedicated. They became more involved in the company. They felt like they had a home. The company was taking care of them. My wife was a nurse at Baylor Scott & White up in Frisco at the surgical center up there. And our insurance was better than what they provided to her as an employee of the hospital. So without a doubt, the Insperity PEO that we brought on to handle the HR, handle the time clocks, handle the just the time off requests, the record keeping, it allowed me to quit focusing on the little things and focus on the bigger things that help the company grow. But without that, there's a lot of headaches. And so without a doubt, Insperity, when we partnered with them for our PEO services, it allowed the company to focus on what it was good at and not what it had to do.
Yeah, no, that's good. Especially if you don't really like doing it, can tend to be a bit of a drain on your time and your effort. So, what about if you were to restart the company today? What would you do different, Steven?
I wouldn't start it.
Okay.
No, I like to tell people that these gray hairs I have all come from the stress of running a business. But running a business, period. It doesn't matter the vertical or the space that you're in. It's challenging. I have an opportunity to start another business now with some commercial land that is developing out in Salina, and I won't do it because at my age at 55, I just don't know that I have enough in the gas tank to do what it takes to do to have the energy to do another startup. If I were to do it, what was the question again? I'm sorry, I got off.
If you were to restart, like start the business over today, what would you do different, knowing what you know today?
Gosh, that's a good question. Well, I will tell you this: I wouldn't have thought I was such a big shot in my 30s when I started making money. I made the I made the mistake of a lot of young entrepreneurs and became flashy. I had to have the bright car. I had to have the nice clothes. I had to have the big house. I had to have the. I wouldn't do that again. I would have been more appreciative of what opportunities had been provided for me, and I would not have been as I guess the word is flamboyant. I wouldn't have been as unappreciative of the resources that I had. Because that was not a fun time in my life. I had some business struggles, and I would not. I would have been more humble with the resources that God had provided for the business. I would not have been. I would not have been. I'm ashamed of it, but I learned a lot from it. So yeah. I would have been more humble. I would have appreciated and been a better steward of the financial gains that the company. I didn't do that, and it was a hard life lesson to learn.
Well, I'm sure you did have some good experiences with those items.
Oh yeah, we had great experience.
Yeah, maybe not as much of the long term.
That was just they call it chapters. It was a chapter, and I think trials and tribulations are put in front of us to teach us to be humble, to teach us, lessons, to life lessons, etc. But I mean, I have no. It's been able to help my wife finish college. I have 4 children, 4 grandchildren. 2 of the children have gone one through a technical college for auto mechanics, one through Texas A&M. My middle son has a very high IQ and didn't want to go to school, and he's been working with me now for 10 years, and he is going to be the succession plan for the company. And then my youngest son is at OSU, and he's flourishing. He is in the Fiji fraternity, and he's just flourishing, and he's doing well. And, all of those opportunities have been provided through the company and through the business. So, I have always been able to provide for my family, and so I'm very thankful for that and appreciative. And that in and of itself is just a blessing that cannot be shined upon enough.
Yeah, for sure. It's a risk, but also has more reward, that being owning a business. So it sounds like you've seen some of that reward, which is great. So what's the next goal or milestone for you, Steven?
I think that it's going to be retirement. I've set out on a goal and have really dove headfirst into this AI. I think that it is going to be the next big thing. I don't know that I will be around long enough to see its total what it's going to be capable of in 20 years, 25 years. But I've reinvigorated and reinvested myself in educating myself on how and what processes can be improved upon, customer service, client outreach, sales, marketing, and I've been developing and partnering with different vendors to start that process of building our first white labeled AI assistant to help us with our sales and our marketing. I want to see the company grow to, the realistic side of me says 5 million, and then that's a good milestone for me. And then retire, give it to my son. That gunslinger entrepreneur says, "Hey, if we can do 5, we can do 10, baby." So if
you can do 10, you can do 100.
Right? Yeah. I'm working towards providing my son with the legacy that I started, that he can continue and take care of his family and enjoy some of the benefits that the business has been had provided. And he doesn't have to roll up his sleeves and do a lot of the hard lifting, the heavy lifting. There were a lot of Saturdays that I had to bring the kids to work with me, because Saturdays were one of the days that you had to get on the phones and call people. And I would probably get in a lot of trouble today, but this was 25 years ago. The kiddos would get a bucket full of nickels, and they'd go over to the Nickel Mania over here at Addison and play the nickel video games or the nickel arcade games over there while Dad was on the phone across the street.
Yeah.
But different times. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to my retirement. My wife and I bought some property in West Texas, and
Nice.
I enjoy the simple life. I came from New Braunfels. I grew up there. I'm a country boy, and I enjoy getting my hands dirty. I like to hunt and fish, and I want to spend whatever time I've got left after retirement, on my tractor and just doing things that I enjoy doing.
Cool. Sounds like a good life. Invite me out. I'll take you up on some fishing and gun shooting. So,
Yeah, keep
before we
that.
get into our last question, how can others learn more about your company, or how can they get in touch if they're interested?
Well, obviously the easiest way to get in touch with us is to visit the website. It's www.swrecovery.com. There's a lot of good information, useful information in our blog section. We've tried to provide some educational material on the do's and don'ts. How common mistakes that companies make in growing too fast and not taking notice of their accounts receivable. So there's some useful information there. They can always reach me directly at 972-984-5065. And then we're here locally in Addison. So if somebody wants to stop by and say hi, they can book an appointment. And I'm more than happy to talk to them and learn a little bit more about their business. But I think the most direct way would be to go to the company's website, and they can learn more about the company there.
Awesome. And any special offers you'd like to offer any listeners?
I always like to give people the opportunity to onboard. A lot of times what we do is we can give a free assessment of their current situation. We can look over their accounts receivables and kind of give them an analysis of some things that they could do better. Or sometimes we tell them, hey, you're doing everything you can. You're doing everything the right way. But we like to offer a free analysis of their processes and help in any way we can with advice and suggestions. And that's always no obligation, free of charge. And it allows us to kind of better understand what a company and what their struggles are. If we can lend a hand or we can lend advice, we're happy in either one of those situations. Because as I mentioned earlier, it's not always about closing the deal. It's about building that relationship with that customer so that nourished relationship can blossom and grow and expand.
Awesome. I'm sure hopefully some people will take you up on that. And so thanks so much, Steven, for joining us today. And thank you, audience, for watching and hopefully sharing some of the insights you learned today. And without further ado, we'll say make it a great day. And Steven, we appreciate you again
Likewise.
giving us.
Very, very, very happy and humbled by your offer to be on the show today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good one, everyone.